I think I'm done with NaNoWriMo. I've deleted my account. So the three main reasons for that: hyper productivity and pushing myself to my limits, and I broke myself. How is how we use generative AI going to change the way that we think? So what does all of this mean as far as my plans for the next few months and for November in particular? Hello and welcome to a new vlog. Welcome if you're new here. Hi, I'm Andrea. I'm a full-time writing instructor and a part-time content creator and indie author. Welcome back if you're one of my lovely returning viewers. It is great to have you all here. We will get into the main topic of this video in a moment, but for my returning viewers, if you're like, Andrea, something is different, I've taken down the blackout curtains. It is finally that time of autumn. It's only going to be 100 degrees today. So happy. And it's going down into the 90s and even the 80s over the next 10 days. I think it's going to start bouncing between the like upper 90s, even 100, to like mid 80s throughout the rest of this month and like most of October. But yeah, I think it's finally time to take down the blackout curtains. So my office space feels like so much lighter and brighter, and I'm loving it. But that is not why you guys clicked on this video, especially if you're new here. If this is your first video of mine, you've probably clicked on it because of the title. So we're gonna kind of front load this vlog with that, although I do need to get to work. So this is not, I'm not a commentary channel. This is not going to be a commentary video. This is going to be a normal day in the life vlog of me as a full-time writing instructor. I've got a ton of teaching work to do. I also have some book work to do for me as an indie author. There will be a book project update. As you saw in the last vlog, I have finished proofreading, which means today we are switching back to cover design. So I will talk about that probably towards the end of this vlog, but at the beginning of this vlog, I do want to talk about the title of this video, like what is mentioned in the title of this video, and that is that I am not going to be participating in Nano for the foreseeable future, unless something just drastically changes over there. I think I'm done with NaNoWriMo for a few reasons, and I'm going to talk about those in a moment, and then I will talk about them in more detail throughout the rest of the vlog. Then following on like that as a main topic, the first thing to say about all of this, I've deleted my account. So I'm no longer doing Nano. I've also deleted my account, and that's probably what is going to have been in the title of this vlog. It's Friday. My brain is very tired. We will see how this goes. I don't even really want to talk about this, but I've participated in Nano in the past. I don't have that long of a history, only a few years, but I have participated in Nano. I have a number of NaNoWriMo and Camp Nano writing vlogs on this channel. I'm not deleting those, like it's not that big of a thing that I feel like I need to delete every reference to Nano from my channel, but I'm cutting ties here and not going forward with them as an organization. And so the three main reasons for that, and this is what we'll talk about kind of throughout the rest of the vlog. One, regardless of the current drama, and I feel like the reason is there in that phrase, the current drama. This is not the first time there has been drama in the past. There has been at least 2 other big issues in the last 1 or 2 years. This is just the most recent thing. Regardless of the current drama, NaNoWriMo as an organization is a bit of a mess. I have in the past tried to give them some grace. They are a charity. They are run largely by volunteers, but I have been a volunteer for organizations. I have been on the executive board of volunteer organizations. I understand the pressures of being on an executive board while also doing full-time work and stuff like that. That's only an excuse for so long, and it feels like that's the thing that keeps coming out, that they're doing their best, but they're a volunteer organization, and you know, there's a limited, I think they've got some full-time staff, but it's a limited number, and most of the decisions that are being made over the last year are, you know, have been handled by the executive board, who are all volunteers. That excuse runs out at a certain point, and I think we've reached that point. So they're a mess. I'm just kind of done. It just feels like it's just continuing to feel like a disappointment, and feel like I'm just getting the ick year after year after year as more and more stuff happens, and I'm just done. So that's reason number one. Reason number two, and these are not in like ranking order, they're three equal reasons. So the second reason of equal importance is, regardless of the current drama, I've already been having a feeling over the last year or so that the challenge aspect of NaNoWriMo is no longer serving me. Even though, particularly with the camp months in April and July, you can set your own goals, it still feels like most people on the platform are setting big goals, and there's a lot of pressure to reach that goal. And like, even in November, if you decide to be a rebel and you're not aiming for 50K, you're still in this pressured environment where other people are trying to get to 50K in a month. And as a writer, as a published author, as a writing instructor, I'm just starting to question the effectiveness and like how good it is for our psyche, for the psyche of a writer, to be pursuing high pressure goals. I'm just starting to take a much slower, low to no pressure approach to my writing, that any sort of writing challenge just doesn't feel good to me anymore. And so I think even if Nano wasn't having all the drama and wasn't a mess, I think am at a point where I would be ready to cut ties and like just split off from that, because my perspective as a writer, my mindset as a writer is just very different from what I kind of see as the conversation around NaNoWriMo. Most people doing Nano related content and talking about their experience with the Nano is more of a pressured, challenged approach, like set this really ambitious goal and like see if they can do it. And that's great for them. And you know, if someone wants to not be affiliated with Nano but is still going to be working towards a big, you know, lofty 50K or more kind of goal for the month of November, fully support that. It's just not for me anymore, and it just feels like to officially be part of Nano is to also kind of be in agreement that that kind of challenge-based writing is a positive thing, and I'm just questioning that. It's not a positive thing for me anymore. So that's the second reason. And then the third reason is specifically related to the current drama and the question of generative AI and writing. I'm just starting to realize, separately from Nano, in my job as a full-time writing instructor at a university where this topic is becoming a bigger topic, questioning AI, generative AI, the difference between non-generative and generative AI, specifically for writing, this is becoming a bigger topic for me, and where my brain is going, where my thoughts and opinions are going on that topic, it's not in alignment with the stance that NaNoWriMo has taken as an organization. And so it just feels like, well, if that's going to be your stance, my stance is different. You can have your stance. That's totally fine. I'm not here to bash Nano or vilify them for their stance, but it is no longer in alignment with my perspective on generative AI and the use of non-generative and generative AI in writing. So since we're not aligned anymore, I just don't feel like it has reached a point where it kind of feels like they've drawn that line in the sand, and they can do that as a charity, as a business, as whatever. They can do that. Some people are getting very moralistic about that, and that's totally fine too. If someone just really is that deeply in disagreement with their stance that that's why they're cutting ties And if they want to vilify NaNoWriMo for that, that's their choice. I want to make it very clear that's not what I'm doing here, but we're not in alignment anymore. And it just feels like we've reached a point where I wish them the best. I hope that they can sort themselves out. I hope that they can find a way of repairing the damage that has been done with the remaining community that wants to still support them. But I just feel like we've reached a point where I'm done. And I'm happy, I'm fine with that decision. So yeah, that's the short version of all of this. So if you just wanted to know, you know, the short version, I'm done with Nano. I've deleted my account. Those are kind of the main reasons why. But if you want to hear me talk in a little bit more detail about some of these things, keep watching, because this is probably going to be what we'll talk about. I don't like, do I want to talk about AI? Not really. I'm already bored of the topic, but I am starting to have some thoughts about AI. I do like documenting my thoughts on things so that as my perspective changes, I can look back on stuff. Like, all of this is open to being amended. It's all evolving, sometimes on a daily basis. So we will talk more about the last two reasons. I think I'm done talking about NaNoWriMo as an organization, but I do think I want to talk a little bit more about the pressured aspect of writing challenges and some of my thoughts about writing challenges in general, and kind of what I think I'll be doing in November. And I think it would be worth it to talk a little bit more about non-generative AI versus generative AI, the ethics questions around that, where I'm starting to kind of land on this, and how I'm thinking about AI going forward. So if you want more of a chat about that, keep watching. But for now, I really need to get to work. Okay, where am I at? I'm losing my mind. That's where I'm at. Teaching work is going well. I am making good progress. I'm trying to keep perspective. I'm trying not to beat myself up. I feel like I'm not getting that much work done, but there's just a lot of work to do. There's all the usual work to do for a Friday, but then I have students in 3 of my classes. They've turned in their rough drafts, and so I need to grade those, which the rough drafts are just graded on completion. So that'll be time consuming, but not hard. But I have told students that if they want detailed feedback from me, they can share their project with me via Google Drive or Canva or whatever they're using, and a lot of them have taken me up on that. So yeah, I keep trying to remind myself it doesn't all have to be done today. I told them anyone who had it in my inbox by 9 a.m. this morning, I would get it back to them before Tuesday. There's not a million, but there's probably like at least 30, and that's a lot. That's a lot of drafts to look at. So I think it'll go faster than I'm thinking, but like I've already done a few and they still took a fair amount of time. So we'll see. But I need a bit of a distraction and a break for just a few minutes. So I thought we could get back to our chat. So I don't know where to start first. Writing challenges. Just writing challenges and challenge-based writing in general. First of all, I don't know what I'm saying today. Like, this is all just stuff in my head that like I'm watching a lot of videos talking about NaNoWriMo and stuff like that. I'm just thinking out loud, basically, in this entire video. So take what I say with a grain of salt. I'm not making judgments on anyone. If you like challenge-based writing, there is nothing wrong with that. But whenever I've spoken about my difficulty with challenge-based writing in the past, there's always a fair few of you who really relate to what I'm saying. And there's now more of you following me here. So this might be your first time hearing me say this. Challenge-based writing, on the surface, seems like a really good idea. Setting deadlines, nothing wrong with setting deadlines. Nothing wrong with setting daily goals. Those are all fine. I do those. I do that all the time. And not just in my writing. That's different from a writing challenge to me. And so while deadlines and daily goals are very good for me in my brain, challenges and like competitions, even if I'm only competing against myself, competition-based writing where I have to hit a certain goal by a certain time, or I have to hit a certain daily goal, or I'm going to get behind, because it's that feeling of you're getting behind. That, as we have seen with my current novel, that sets me spiraling. Then it's just as soon as I start getting behind, I start beating myself up and feeling really, really bad about myself. And it's not a good thing. And this is absolutely a personal issue. So if you're someone who can do challenge-based writing, if you can, you know, set a goal to write 50,000 words in 1 month and meet that goal with no problem, I'm so happy for you. Or if you can set a goal of 50,000 words and not meet it, but then feel like, okay, cool, I didn't meet it, but like, look at what I did instead. Like, look at what I still accomplished. Like, and that's good for you. Then like, oh my gosh, like, tell me your secrets. I wish I could do that. I can't. I think I used to be able to, but I think the biggest problem happened the year after I won Nano. Because the next year it's like, I knew I had done it, but then I knew that that next year I wasn't going to be able to do it, and that felt like a failure to me somehow. And so it just, that really then got me thinking about challenge-based writing and these sorts of writing challenges and the pressure that they can put on us as writers, and is that pressure necessarily a good thing? And I do think this really heavily depends on the author. There are some writers who thrive on that, like in that pressure, like they need that pressure of a deadline, of a goal to lay a fire under them. And I think there are others of us who we use that pressure and we use that failure as a stick to beat ourselves with. And it was really interesting because like I've only really been writing consistently since like 2019. So it's really only been since 2019, so like for the past 5 years, that I've been writing consistently and building a somewhat daily writing practice. And so I've been learning a lot about myself as a writer over the last few years. And I'm just starting to realize that I am not the kind of writer that does well in those challenge environments. And I'm not the kind of writer that does well when in an environment with other writers. Like it's hard for me to see how much other people are writing. And like if we're all actively working on something like a NaNoWriMo, it's hard for me to see, oh, I only got 500 words today, but my friends got 1,000 words or 1,500 words, or they exceeded 1,667 words. That then feels like I'm falling behind, even though I have control over that deadline and that goal and blah blah blah. I think I got sucked into the idea of challenge-based writing because I liked the community side of it, and as a content creator, like everyone else is making content around these challenges, so it seems like a good way to find other people doing similar videos and have other people find my videos because they're looking for that kind of content. But I think over the last couple years in particular, I'm just starting to get a lot more comfortable with doing my own thing and not trying to be part of, it's not that I don't want to be part of the writing community, because I do. I want to meet other writers. I want to meet other authors. I want to get to know them and hear about their work and learn about writing by learning about their writing process and stuff like that. But I just don't know that that environment is good for me. It's not healthy for me. And the difficulty I've had is that in the past, I've tried to be a rebel. I've tried to set secondary goals. I've tried to flip around how I approach these challenges and put things like joy of writing first, or putting realistic goals as, you know, what I'm aiming for. But it's still all happening within that challenge environment. And so in the back of my mind, I'm still thinking about the challenge. And that doesn't help me. I don't want to continue being in these situations where I'm setting goals and I'm using those goals to then make myself feel bad if I'm not meeting those goals. And then I'm just shutting down and not working, that it just causes creative burnout because the challenge aspect and the competition aspect are still kind of at the front of my brain when I shouldn't be thinking about those things at all. Am I making any sense in this? I feel like this has been quite a bit of a ramble, but this is something I've been thinking. I feel like I got sucked into Nano in the beginning because I loved the community aspect of it. I thought the challenge aspect of it seemed cool, and I've done well-ish. Did I really though? I used to think I did well in challenge environments, but then they always led to severe burnout and not wanting to work on my project. Like my first time really going for it with NaNoWriMo in 2022, I did it. I exceeded 50K in 1 month, but then December, January, and part of February, I didn't write at all. So doesn't that defeat the purpose of writing 50K in 1 month? I feel like I got sucked in because of fear of missing out and wanting to be part of something, and then over time I've just realized it was never good for me from the beginning. It was always doomed to kind of lead to this feeling like this is just not. When I first finished my PhD, I think I was still so caught up in goals and hyper productivity and pushing myself to my limits, and I broke myself. I broke my brain. Burnout is so much more damaging than we really talk about, particularly here in the writing community. And I just feel like for that reason alone, I was already ready to step away from any sort of formalized challenge environment. And it's why even back in, was it April or was it last year? I'm losing track. But when we tried doing the whole like cozy writing challenge that's not a challenge, like I need a different word for challenge. And someone came up in the comments with intentions, and I really like that. And I feel like that's the direction I'm going in. It's not about writing challenge, it's about writing intentions and putting the non-quantifiable things at the front of my writing process. So how I'm feeling about myself as a writer, how I'm feeling about the writing itself, how I'm feeling in the moment of doing the writing each day. Those are far more important than how many words I wrote in a day. I think the idea of 50K or writing a whole book in 1 month sounds really good. And if you're only writing one book, then that could be a good thing to just get it done in 1 month. But if you are someone who's writing book after book after book, 50K in 1 month is not sustainable. Even on an annual basis, like even if you only do that once a year, every year, that's still not sustainable for most writers. And that's the key. Most writers. If you're watching this and you're thinking, you've got issues, I don't know what you're talking about. I can write 50K in 1 month and maybe take a week off or something, but like I'm fine, it doesn't lead to burnout. Then I'm not talking to you. And I'm so happy for you. Like, I love that you can do that. And in the past, I was able to do that. And then over time, again, I think post PhD, it's just my approach to writing has completely changed. And things that I could do 5 years ago, I can't do now. Either because I'm getting older or the way my brain is wired, I don't know. But it's just not working. And rather than beating myself up and treating it as if it's a problem with me, I'm really trying to acknowledge that it is most likely a problem with the circumstances I was writing in by putting myself into these challenge-based environments and surrounding myself with people who are also participating in that challenge. And I've known this about myself for years. I'm not a competitive person. The only person I ever want to compete with is me. And the only person I ever want to compare myself to is me in the past. You know, no judgment if you're still participating in NaNoWriMo officially. And no judgment if you're opting out of Nano but still going to do some sort of challenge. Like, I'm cheering you on. But I think this is the year that I'm finally realizing that I don't even want to try to be at the back of the race, cheering everyone on who's ahead of me. I'm cheering you on from the sidelines. Like, I'm out of the race. I'm doing my own thing. I've got my sign waving for you. I'm cheering you on if you're participating in some sort of challenge. I want you to reach your goals, but I'm not just at the back of the race this year. I'm out of the race. I'm not participating. I will be doing some other writing stuff, but we'll talk about that later. For now, this has been enough of a distraction and I need to get back to work. I need to get some grading done for my business writing class, and I need to get some more drafts reviewed for my advanced composition students. So I'm going to set a timer for about an hour. So I'm going to start with the grading so that I can get that crossed off, and then with whatever time in the hour that remains, I will do some draft reviews. Okay, I am partway through all the drafts. I finished the grading, so business writing grading is done, and I'm partway through the number of drafts I wanted to review today. So I keep trying to remind myself I don't have to do all of the drafts today, but I'm ready for a little bit of a break. So let's chat about AI, generative AI. Well, I mean, so that's the thing. Let's chat about that first. The difference between non-generative and generative AI. First of all, just my thoughts on AI, generative AI in particular, are constantly evolving. It's a moving target. Like, I think it's going to take, the broader topic is constantly changing, like what we know about generative AI, how we're using generative AI, the particular tools that are available. These are constantly being developed and changing, and so that changes my perspective on them as we learn more about them, as the tools themselves evolve. It's going to change my opinion. So this is just where I'm at right now. All of this could change tomorrow for all I know. But, and I'm not an expert, not by a long shot, but there are basically two types of AI that we're talking about here in the writing community specifically. We're either referring to non-generative AI, which would be certain tools that are powered by AI but are not creating the content itself. And then there's generative AI, where the AI language model is creating the content based on the prompt that you give it. There are some tools now that are blurring those lines, or that have both a non-generative and a generative AI components within the same tool or within the same software. So there's things like ChatGPT is the one that everyone talks about. That is pretty much entirely generative AI. That is its one function. To my knowledge, I've still never tried it. I've not used it myself. It freaks me out a little bit. I am a child of the 80s. I have grown up on movies about what happens when the robots take over. So talking to a computer freaks me out a little bit. I won't lie. And maybe it shouldn't, but it does. So don't judge me. So something like ChatGPT, from everything I know about it, it is completely generative AI. That is its one function. So it's a large language model where you spit in the prompt and it spits out its answer. There are issues with that. We'll talk about that a little bit in a minute. So let's set that to the side. Then there are other programs that started out more as a non-generative AI tool. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you want to look at it, a lot of these tools are now starting to add a generative AI component. So the two big ones that come to mind are Grammarly and ProWritingAid. In the beginning, these were just editing programs, and they were powered by AI to make them a kind of supercharged spell check and grammar check system. I use ProWritingAid. I own a lifetime license. I have liked it enough. I don't think it's the best program in the world. We'll talk about that in a moment, but it does the job, and I've used it to copy edit specifically. I don't use it at any other stage of the editing process, but I have used it to copy edit the last several books, I think. It was somewhere around my third or fourth book, I think, is when I started using it. And in the beginning, it was just, like I said, a supercharged spell check, grammar check system. Same thing with Grammarly. And so that was very much in the non-generative AI category. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you want to look at it, I'm kind of leaning towards the unfortunately category or side of things. Both of these programs now have a generative AI component to them. And so both of them will finish your sentence. Both of them have an option to rephrase or rewrite. If you pay attention to any of the ads on YouTube, Grammarly is specifically marketing this particular aspect of their program, where you can write a paragraph and then highlight it and tell it to rewrite this to sound more confident. I have issues with that. Like as a teacher, I have issues with that. I would not, and I tell my students that that is then tipping into generative AI territory and is not using it as a tool to help you write your paper, but is using it as a tool to write your paper. That's a no-no in my classes. And as a writer, I kind of feel like if you were using that to like rewrite the section of my novel to make it flow better or to make the dialogue more active or something, you're then letting the computer do your job as the writer. I feel like in the past there was a very clear line of non-generative and generative AI, and now that line is getting blurred. And when that line is getting blurred within the same software program, it makes it really difficult as a writer to feel like you are truly opting out of generative AI. And I'm not bashing Pro Writing Aid. I'm not deleting it from my computer. I will possibly still use it, but like just with Pro Writing Aid in particular, I am having used it now for several of my books, I am noticing an issue. It's not perfect. It misses things. It misses things that it shouldn't miss if it is relying that heavily on AI technology. Just as one little example, as I was proofreading my most recent novel, I may have already told the story in the last vlog, but it missed out on 5 different occasions the word laugher when I meant laughter with a T. This is something that within the context of the sentence, laugher does not make sense. Laugher is clearly wrong, and it didn't flag it. I've also, as a second example of AI and the problem with using AI to edit, I have had repeatedly in multiple different programs and platforms not owned by the same developer, I have had autocorrect kick in where I mean to write the word hours, as in how many hours in a day, but I flip the O and the U around, and instead of correcting it to hours, it corrects it to Horus, as in the Egyptian god. I told this story to my friend at work and she's like, your computer's haunted by the ghost of Horus. Very true, quite possibly. These are such little minor things, but it just shows how we cannot be relying on AI to do our work for us. And this is part of a much bigger, broader discussion. But like, it's these little things that are why I am starting to lean less on editing software like Pro Writing Aid, because it's not as good as it claims to be. And if it can't even catch something as simple as the laugher filled the room, that does not make sense. The laughter filled the room makes sense. The laugher filled the room doesn't. And if it's not even catching something that basic, that's an issue. Like, it's clearly not that good. So it's not something you can really rely on that much. And this is the argument that the organization that we've already talked enough about in this vlog was trying to make in their very bizarrely and poorly edited statement, by the way. But if they were using AI to edit their statement, it shows. It's not perfect. They don't catch everything. And you need to have real human eyes on your work. But the point they were trying very badly to make was that we need these technologies, or some writers need this technology to help them edit their work. And as someone who is using these technologies to help me edit my work, I need more than that. I also need to know how to be a good writer, and I know how to catch these errors myself. Running your work through something like Pro Writing Aid or Grammarly is one net to try to catch the mistakes, but things are going to slip through that net. So you have to layer on more human editing to try to catch those things. And that's why there's multiple steps to the editing process. Something I'm trying to get my students to understand. So just from a practical perspective, these are the issues I have with AI. But then there are some other ethical issues. The two big things, the biggest thing is copyright. And we have not fully answered these questions in the court of law. There are still open lawsuits that I am aware of these language models using copyrighted work to train their models. And does someone have a right to take one of my novels and spit it into one of these language models to train it? I would argue no. Some people are arguing yes, because they think it falls under fair use. That is highly debatable in my opinion. Highly debatable. There's multiple questions to answer for if something is considered fair use, and so it will be very interesting to see where this falls. I'm still reading some articles about, like, can language models be trained entirely on copyright-free materials or public domain materials? Some would argue no. Typically the companies that are building these models are arguing no, they can't build their models without using copyrighted materials and only using stuff in the public domain. But other people, including some AI development companies, are arguing yes. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how that falls. But right now, I would not want to put any of my own material into one of these models, because I don't want stuff that should be copyrighted to me to be used to train it. And according to Pro Writing Aid's website, they don't do anything with my writing. It all gets deleted. It's not used to train their models. I'm still diving deeper into that just to make sure. Grammarly, however, when I looked at it, it was a little bit more vague. If you're using either of these programs, that is absolutely something to do your own research on and decide what you are comfortable with. The other ethical issue I have is more of a sustainability issue. The amount of power it takes to run the computers needed to run these models, it kind of feels like me limiting my usage of AI is just one little way I can impact my own personal environmental impact. So that's something to think about. And then the other thing is, just as a teacher, as a writing teacher and as a writer myself, is the thought of how is, and this is still like a baby idea because so much research still needs to be done on this, but how is how we use generative AI going to change the way that we think and the way that we develop ideas, the way that we outline ideas, the way that we problem solve both creatively and logically? Like, how is this going to impact our creative and our logical problem solving if we are having computers do that work for us, and if we start to become reliant on computers to do those steps? And so when writers say, well, I don't use it to write my work, but I use it to help me with these other things, I do think there's an intentional and self-aware way of doing it. So I'm not saying that, like, using it for brainstorming and outlining and helping to develop is a inherently bad thing, but I do think it's a potentially risky thing that if you're not thinking about that, it just, I don't know. So I can't say it's a bad thing, but I also can't say it's a good thing to use them as an assistive tool, because we don't know how over the course of long term, how that's going to change how we approach writing. Like, these are kind of the ethical and philosophical, like, big picture questions I have about generative AI and non-generative, because, like, in these cases, it's the non-generative use of AI as more of an assistive tool. Do we want it to be an assistive tool? Is it actually helping us, or does it feel like it's helping us in the short term, but could it potentially have long-term consequences that we're not yet thinking of because we're so captivated by shiny new thing? It's very interesting. So yeah, like, again, These thoughts are moving targets. They are evolving constantly, but that's just roughly where I'm at with AI at the moment, and why for now I'm starting to pull myself back. Like I'm not going to condemn programs like Grammarly and ProWriting Aid, but for me personally, I'm starting to question how much I want to use them and in what ways. Like if I do use them, in what ways. Like I know flat out I would never let it rewrite even one sentence for me, but considering it, even the most basic suggestions are sometimes wrong, or it doesn't catch things, is it really speeding up my copy editing process the way that I initially thought? Because I don't think it is speeding it up as much. That's a separate discussion that we can talk about in another vlog. It is now pretty much 5 o'clock. It doesn't feel that late because my office feels so much brighter than usual for this time of day. But yeah, it's feeling really nice. It was time to take down the blackout curtains. But yeah, it's pretty much 5 o'clock. So I have wrapped up teaching work for the day and put everything away for the weekend. That's good. I figured since we've now spent some time, a lot of time, talking about everything we've been talking about. Honestly, the subject of AI, part of me is bored of it. Like, it just feels like it's all anyone wants to talk about these days. And I think it's because I hear it talked about in the writing community, especially with everything that's been going on lately with the organization that we were talking about earlier. But then I also hear about it so much at work. Like my colleague and I were talking about it in the office the other day because everything that was happening with NaNoWriMo and the discussions I was seeing about AI in connection with that was then just making me think about it. Like, it is making me have to think about it more and more intentionally and more clearly. And I just feel like there's still so much I don't know about generative AI that it just makes me feel like I've got to become an expert in it to be able to talk about it, especially here on YouTube. And obviously I don't. I can just make vlogs like this where I'm just thinking out loud and thinking my way through it. So hopefully this has been somewhat interesting for you all to watch. I go back and forth between feeling really intrigued and curious and feeling really annoyed and bored. That's the spectrum. The different ends of the spectrum that I swing wildly between. So yeah. So what does all of this mean as far as my plans for the next few months and for November in particular? And kind of writing update, project update now that proofreading is done. Proofreading is done. Book interior is basically finished. I'll do one more visual proof of the formatting when I am ready to export everything and generate the print PDF to get the final page number. I'm just waiting until the front cover illustration is done and I'm ready to move on to doing the paperback cover. That way I can look over everything book interior wise one last time when I'm like nearly to the end of doing the cover. So I want to give myself a little bit of time away from the interior again and then come back with fresher eyes to give it one final glance over. So we're switching back to the cover design. It's the last like big step that is left for ATP4, so we are inching ever closer, which is amazing. I'm super happy and excited about that. And the cover is at a point where I could finish it this weekend. Like if I really, really, really wanted to upload the book on Monday, I could do that. The cover wouldn't be quite what I've envisioned in my head. I wouldn't be able to put in all of the little details I still want to add, but I could have a cover. So I could just wrap this all up really quick. I don't want to do that. But because I know I could finish it that quickly, I am giving myself until the end of this month. All things going according to those plans, the book will be uploaded by the end of this month, beginning of October, somewhere between like September 28th and October, the first Sunday of October is the 6th. So somewhere between like the last weekend of September and the end of the first weekend of October, somewhere in there is when I really want to be uploading this book so that we can have hopefully a mid to late October launch, which means by November, which means by whenever I upload it, at that point, I have time to switch back to working on writing and start working on the next project. And then certainly by the time the book is launched after that, then it's all systems go for the next book, which will be Independent Hearts 4, which is also wild to think about. So yeah, I do want to be writing in November. I want to be writing before November. I don't want to like say I'm waiting until November. I think throughout October, while I'm counting down to launch for Across the Pond 4, I can't wait to reveal the title. The reveals are coming, I promise. All the reveals and the launch are coming. Possibly like within the next 4 to 6 weeks, this book will be out. That's equal parts exciting and terrifying. Because it's mid-September. So like by late October at the latest, this book will be launching. Anyway, I'm not going to think about that. The book should be uploaded and like I should be in like a waiting space by the beginning of October. And I think throughout October, while I'm counting down to launch and stuff, I would like to be getting back into a regular writing routine and maybe taking some steps backward, reviewing my outline, doing some character development, getting back into the headspace of the characters, as it's been so long since I've been working in the Independent Hearts world. So I think that's a good use for October. And then by November, I want to be back into a daily writing practice. Although by the end of November, Tamsin will be visiting. And then in December, it's Vlogmas. But I do think that her trip and Vlogmas, it could be really exciting to have more writing vlogs be a part of those things. Because part of what Tamsin and I want to do when she visits is like go to coffee shops and write and like work and hang out. And also, I wake up at 5:30 every morning. I'm not expecting Tamsin to wake up at 5:30 every morning. So I think it would be really easy for me to like wake up at 5:30 and while she sleeps for a little bit longer, I can just like get a 30-minute writing session in like on my laptop in bed, nice and cozy. So I do think I can maintain a daily writing habit even with Tamsin's visit and all of that. So yeah, it's gonna be cover design and final publishing prep work for the next few weeks, but I do think within the next 2.5 to 3 weeks we will be starting to do more writing again, which is very, very, very exciting. So yeah, that's where all of that is at. And I feel like this vlog has gotten long enough, so I think I'm gonna end it here. Thank you for hanging out with me for another day. This has kind of been, B-roll wise, it's been a day in the life as a uni writing instructor, but chat wise it's been some hopefully what has been some very interesting conversations and discussions. I would love to know your thoughts below in the comments regarding NaNoWriMo, what you all are thinking about things. Keep it respectful, keep it kind. I would like to know, particularly in regards to not so much the drama, because we all have different thresholds of tolerance for drama in groups like this, but I'd love to know your thoughts regarding challenge-based writing challenges. I'd love to know your thoughts on AI, non-generative, generative. Do you use any of it? Are there any articles that you've read that have shifted your opinion one way or another, or videos that you found that I can look up that might help inform me a little bit more, because it is something I need to be doing more research on. So yeah, let's just continue this conversation down below. I'd love to know that I'm not completely alone in some of my thoughts. Yeah, let's just chat. I always worry about doing videos like this because I'm not a commentary channel, I'm not a drama channel. I don't really like talking about current conversations and things because I don't want to seem like I'm participating in the drama or the controversy, but all of these things are conversations that I have been interested in. It felt like a conversation that kind of needed to be had, and it is something that I have been thinking about a lot over the last couple weeks in regards to the NaNoWriMo stuff, but I've been thinking about the AI side of things for a while, just because it is so much of a part of my daily life at work. Leave me some writing and book related emojis, because we've been talking about writing and books and stuff like that, so you can leave me some writing and book emojis in the comments to let me know which one of you lovely people have made it all the way to the end of this very rambly, chatty, hopefully semi-coherent vlog. Because you all are the real MVPs who make it all the way to the end. If you are not subscribed yet and you've made it all the way to the end, that is a good sign that you might enjoy these and you might want to subscribe. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. I'd really appreciate that. Give the vlog a thumbs up if you enjoyed it as well. That would mean a lot to me. So yeah, let's chat in the comments. I will see you all in the next vlog, which we will not talk about AI, but I will probably talk about the weather. So come back for that, and I will see you all then, and thank you very much for watching this one. Bye!